Thank you for joining us here for the August 23rd, 2021 Alpharetta City Council meeting. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Note for the record that all members of council are present and accounted for. And as we always do, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able, please stand and join us. First item on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda, and the consent agenda consists of the council meeting minutes from the meeting of August 16th, 2021. Is there anything that council members would like to remove from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell and a second by Councilman Hypes to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. I was not present, so I will abstain. And it does pass unanimously. So next we'll move on to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting, and we have 3 items. The first of which will be V-21-18 Edwards/91 John Christopher Stream Buffer Variance. Mr. Woodman.
Yeah.
Thank you for noting that. This item was tabled during the July 26, 2021 City Council meeting and must be removed from the table prior to presentation or consideration.
Mayor, I'll offer a motion to remove from the table V-21-18 Edwards/91 John Christopher Stream Buffer Variance.
Second. We have a motion by Councilwoman Richard and a second by Councilman Merkel. All those in favor, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And the item is removed from the table. Councilman Binder.
Sir, I'm going to recuse myself as previously stated.
Thanks, sir. All right, the item has been removed from the table, so Mr. Woodman, if you would, please come forward.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening, the first item before you is a variance to allow a stream buffer encroachment and a front setback reduction for the purpose of constructing a single-family detached home on an undeveloped lot. I have the location map on the overhead. The subject property is located at 91 John Christopher Drive in the Coldridge Forest subdivision. This is the street elevation of the property from John Christopher looking back into the property. Property is undeveloped. It's zoned R15. There's a perennial stream that runs north to south through the middle of the property, which has 150-foot stream buffers. Surrounding properties are zoned R15, except that the property to the east is zoned CUP, Community Unit Plan. Single-family detached lots in the Coldridge Forest subdivision are located to the north, west, and south, and a single-family detached lot in the Henderson Village subdivision is located to the east. The applicant is requesting a reduction of the platted front setback from 50 to 30 feet, and I'll pull the site plan up. So this subdivision has a platted setback of 50 feet. The applicant is asking to reduce that to 35 feet. And the stream buffer reduction is requested from 150 feet to 54 feet. So the stream runs down the middle of the site, and so there are 150-foot buffers on either side of that stream, and they completely encumber this property. As you can see from the site plan, the applicant's proposed footprint for the new home would be on the front half of the lot. With respect to that front setback variance, the property is zoned R15, and the R15 zoning district actually does allow for a 35-foot front setback on a local street. Again, that's consistent with what the applicant is requesting. In addition, the adjacent lots to the south, I have a map. Adjacent lot to the south has a 23-foot setback from John Christopher, and then 141 John Christopher, which is this property up to the north. This property was approved for a variance to reduce the front setback from 50 to 35 to allow the home on the front half of the property for the similar reasons because of the stream running through the middle of the property. That variance was granted in 2004. With respect to the stream buffer variance, as you can see from this exhibit, there have been 4 homes to the north that were constructed on the back half of the property, and then the 3 homes north of that were constructed on the front half of the property. City stormwater engineer has reviewed this request and supports the applicant's request to construct the home on the front half of the property because it will have the least impact to the stream. So the properties to the north that were constructed on the rear half would have a driveway that would have to cross that stream, and that would have more impact to that stream. Placement on the front of the property would only impact the buffers on the front half of the property, and then the rest, the remaining at the back would be maintained. The applicant has also proposed as mitigation to the stream buffer variance to remove invasive bamboo that is growing within the stream buffer, and they're also proposing to record a conservation easement on the back half of the property to protect the property from further development. Coldridge Forest subdivision was platted in 1973, with most of the homes along John Christopher constructed in the early 70s. In 1995, the city established a comprehensive stormwater management system, which created the city's current 150-foot perennial stream buffers. So that was done after this property was platted as a buildable lot. We also do have some past examples of stream buffer variances that have been approved in the city, most recently at the 1858 at the rear of the Alpharetta First United Methodist Church property. Of course, the First United Methodist Church property also had some stream buffer variances approved, as well as East of Main 2. We did show this to the public at the Community Zoning Information Meeting held on June 9th. There were public comments from residents in the Coldridge Forest subdivision stating that the lot should remain undeveloped. Since it was never developed, comments that they did not want the home built on the front portion of the lot, that the existing homes will look into the rear of this proposed home, that the new home only benefits the applicant, concerns about construction traffic and noise. Do not want any additional tree removal, the length of construction, and erosion on the stream. Staff also received 2 letters of objection. One of those letters of objection was from the adjacent property owners to the north. Some of the concerns in that objection included the potential negative impact to the stream from building a home on this property. The lot was never built upon and should become a pocket park for the neighborhood. Residential structure is ill-suited for placement on the front of the lot, and the loss of privacy to those property owners. Those property owners asked that if approval is considered, that the adjacent property owners, that they request that the applicant remove some boundary trees along the applicant's property, common property line, that have been deemed hazardous by a certified arborist. They've also asked that if the home is conditioned to be pushed back to the rear of the property, that a 6-foot privacy fence be constructed on the rear portion of the lot. And they're also asking that the applicant acknowledge that their contractors would not trespass on the property. Staff has reviewed this proposal and finds that the request does not conflict with the established review criteria for a variance. The city stormwater engineer supports the request to allow the home on the front portion of the platted lot because of it would have the least impact to the stream. And as I mentioned before, that 35-foot front setback is consistent with what the R15 zoning district requires, and has been granted on a lot for similar reasons to the north. And with that, staff is recommending approval subject to 2 conditions. The first condition being stream buffer encroachment, front setback, tree removal, and building placement shall be limited to site plan prepared by Eco Living LLC, dated June 5th, 2021, except for modifications required to comply with the conditions below. And 2, property owner shall mitigate the stream buffer encroachment by recording a conservation easement on the subject property over the area located on the east side of the stream, as well as removal of invasive bamboo in the stream buffer with final approval by staff. And that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions from council? Councilwoman Richard.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. In regards to the neighbors at 101 John Christopher, can you give us any insight whether the applicant is open to the request about the removal of the boundary trees that are deemed to be dangerous by the arborist report?
Yes, I did discuss that with the applicant, and they seemed to be willing to remove those trees. But the applicant is also here
All right.
as well.
We'll ask. Great. Thank you.
Councilman Hydes.
Mr. Woodman, if I understand the application and the packet, all of the houses that are along Jane Ellen Way are in the same zoning district?
Correct.
And most of the houses, if not all the houses on Jane Ellen Way, are built closer to the road, within like a 30 or 35-foot?
I did not look at, my focus was on John Christopher Drive and not so much on Jane Ellen Way. So I can't speak to their exact setback, but they do have a platted setback of 50 feet as well on Jane Ellen Way.
Okay. I was just looking at the map and seeing how close virtually most of the houses are on Jane Ellen Way leading up to the intersection, and I didn't know if you had any information about those houses.
I believe they're meeting a 50-foot setback.
All right.
Yeah, mostly.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Mr. Woodman, in most of our neighborhoods, I know in mine, when you have infill development, you have the same setback throughout the neighborhood. Is that correct?
Typically, you would have the same setback, but there are hardships that occur sometimes that could warrant a different setback. But usually they do.
Okay. So here, as I'm looking at this map, you say 150 feet on both sides, but actually the encroachment on the one just to the north, or the one above the property in question, is even closer to the house that was already built.
I'm not sure if I
The stream is even closer to the house.
Oh.
There's more room in the lot in question to put a house.
On this particular lot, it appears that there's actually more room up front than there is at the back. I mean, the stream doesn't take a straight line down all these lots.
But yet the house went on the back part of the lot.
Yeah.
Is my point. But there's more room on this lot to put a house on the back. Is that correct?
I mean, to me, it looks on this particular property, the stream appears to be close to the middle of that lot. I don't know that this may be more room back here than there is on the front here, but it's very close.
Of course, that could change streams. They move
Sure.
left and right.
Yeah.
So the only reason is you feel like that by putting a bridge like these other 4 homes that are aligned behind the stream is a danger to the stream?
Yeah, the stormwater engineer has looked at this and prefers the location of the home on the front because you avoid bringing a driveway through the stream to get to the rear portion of the property. You're having more impacts with this configuration than you are with just bringing a driveway to the house at this location and then putting a conservation over the rest of the property.
Okay, okay. I just struggle with the fact that 4 of them there are lined up on the backside, and you have more room on that backside on this particular lot, but you all didn't require that placement. So, all right, thank you.
Any other questions from council for staff? Thank you, Mr. Woodman. If the applicant would like to come forward, now's your opportunity to do so.
Well, thank you to the distinguished members of the council. Thanks to Michael Woodman, Lauren Shapiro, Zach Trulove, and David Shostak. The members of this organization are top shelf, and we really do appreciate the city's support and working with us and the level of detail that they go through to make this community great. It's one of the reasons why we want to move here. We are renting a house right now on Jane Ellen Way, and to answer the question that was asked earlier, almost all of the houses on Jane Ellen Way and surrounding properties are at the front of the lots. And so one of the issues with this particular lot, both economically and environmentally, those are the two things that we're weighing right now. My wife is an independent architect. She focuses on environmental design. Eco Living LLC is the name of the company who did the plat. And we have to look at trying to build a bridge over a stream that's not similar to the driveways that were built on the other houses that are back at the back of the lot. There's about a 15-foot elevation change. And we couldn't just run a driveway down to a bridge. There would be too much what's called free runoff. So we would have to wind that driveway down the front of the lot. It would have a significant impact on the mature trees that are there. There are a lot of specimen trees, and we would like to have as little impact on the specimen trees that have been there for nearly 50 years. So we're asking to remove 5 to 7 specimen trees and do as little lot clearing as we possibly can to preserve the view, which we have that map there, but we wanted to preserve the view of the houses to the south on Jane Ellen Way that face the woods and face the house to the north as well. And the way we want to get this done is to preserve the view of and the privacy of 101 John Christopher, who we've personally met with, and they've been great to us. We're civil. We get along very well. We speak about the property on a regular basis about any issues that we might have. We are willing to cut down those trees as long as the city arborist approves it. We'll do that ASAP as soon as the lot conveys, as a matter of fact. So some of the questions that were asked, and I think that probably going through your minds are we investors? And the answer to that is no. This is a forever home. We've always wanted to live in Alpharetta. I grew up in Dunwoody and moved to Cumming. My wife and I got married, and we lived in Cumming for how long? Over 11 years in this most recent house. And now we're just so attracted to the Alpharetta city community. We've watched this grow up. I've been watching it for 47 years. And it's been absolutely amazing to see what you've done head and shoulders above Roswell or Cumming or any of the other local municipalities. So, hats off to the Alpharetta city planners. The noise. This neighborhood is going through a similar transformation that the west side of Highway 9 is going through. A lot of investors are coming in and doing flips, or they're doing major changes for forever homes. There's a couple of houses in there that people put a lot of time and effort into completely changing the look of these homes, but making them into forever homes, which is where we are. We also like the fact that a lot of our neighbors, the Adams next to us at 215 and David Hale across the street, they've been in the neighborhood for 40 plus years, and they're supported. We have letters of support from them, and as well as other folks around that are closer that are impacted by this. So I think that us coming in and building a home as fast as we possibly can using structural insulated panels that will allow the house framing to happen very quickly within about 48 hours instead of weeks of people hammering and sawing and framing a house up. We're trying to use these types of materials both for the environmental impact as well as the short time to move in impact. We are being considerate of all of our neighbors that are going to be forever neighbors, especially 101. You know, they're younger. They have Amanda's mother is disabled, and they take care of her, and so we want to be good neighbors, and they want to be good neighbors. We've had lots of emails back and forth about this, and so I think that an approval of this for us would be significant. I think it would be a significant change, and there are significant changes already happening in the property on the other side, on the south side, that was overgrown, and that it was literally couldn't see the house. And we just walked down the street yesterday, and I said, wow, we can actually see that house. It's pretty amazing. So I personally think that this move forward is good for the community. It's good for home values, as long as folks are good neighbors in our construction, and we are committed to doing that. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from council at this time? Councilwoman Richard.
Thank you. It's Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Is that correct? Great.
Yes.
I had an opportunity to visit the neighboring property probably about a month ago. And when I was out there, I think I had seen a tree from your potential property that had fallen onto 101 John Christopher. Is that tree still, has that been taken care of? Is that tree still sitting?
The 3-foot encroachment has been taken care of, but that's a beech tree, 50-year-old beech tree. We want to actually use that wood to build cabinets. So we're going to pull it out and have it dried and sawn and use it for cabinets. We have to get that done quickly so that we can have time for it to kiln dry. So that's what we plan on doing with that tree. But the 3 feet that was hanging over the lot line, that has been taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from council at this time? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards?
Yes, sir. Jonathan Hickle, 101 John Christopher Drive, Alpharetta.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jonathan Hickle and Amanda Clay for 101 John Christopher Drive. Thank you for Mr. Woodman and all the staff that's been working on this report and working through a lot of the issues. And we have had the opportunity to speak and meet with the Edwards. Very nice people where, they've been very transparent and very open through this entire process on their desires and their plans for the property. One of the things that they came over when they had dinner at our home, they said, can we have your support on building in these variances? And from our family standpoint, I would say, it's within our rights to agree or disagree. And so in this instance, we're going to disagree with them, and we ask that you deny this request for a variance in this case. A couple of the reasons have been very well stated by Mr. Woodman and staff. That looking at the back side of their house, where we're currently looking at green space, our preference would be for them not to build at all, not disturb the lot, since the lot hasn't been developed since the early 70s, and then those setbacks enforced in 1995 kind of prevented that lot, and it stayed stagnant for up until today, which is why they're asking for the variance. The next part would be our second preference, should the Edwards like to build, would be to build the home in line with the existing houses on John Christopher Drive, and that would prevent looking out from our property to the front, that would look out on the green space still and just a driveway rather than the backside of a house. I realize there's a lot of great points for the Edwards to build at the front, less tree and stream impacts, to be in there. And so those would be our preferences: one, not to build, and two, to build the property at the rear. But I realize that there's financial impacts to that. So for someone who's lived with that lot there empty as long as I've been residing there, and my wife and her family for a considerable time longer than that, those are the reasons we ask you to deny this variance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Cobb, do we have any other comment cards?
No, sir.
But if there is anyone else who would like to come forward and speak on this item, Now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do we have any questions from council at this time? Councilwoman Richard?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have one more question, Mr. Edwards, so if you don't mind coming forward real quick. I believe I heard you say that you would be open to addressing any of the boundary trees that were deemed to be dangerous by the arborist report?
Immediately, yes.
Okay. And so you would be open to us adding that as a condition to the application?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Edwards is there.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards, and I want to hear from you, and then I want to verify it through Mr. Woodman. But can you speak more about, okay, when I went out like 2 weeks ago. I don't know how you can hardly see through the bamboo, but that's going to be a task either
Yes.
way. But to get the driveway, you say you have to cut down some specimen trees, and it's meandering.
Yeah, it would have to meander.
So you could not put a straight driveway like the other 4 homes have put?
In order to do that, I'm not sure if the stormwater engineer would approve something like that, because you're talking about free runoff. And one of the major issues that we struggle with is erosion, and that affects all the people downstream, not anybody upstream at all. So if we have we go from 4,160 impervious square feet to over 8,000. So we're well over double. And I believe, and I think the stormwater engineer would verify, that this would create a significant problem for the stream. That area is also very low. It's the lowest part in that section of the neighborhood. It's where all the water heads. And it wouldn't be a smart idea to build a house down that low. So, because we had Henderson neighborhood comes down, the 101 comes down, and then you have the 3 boundary houses that are a solid 25 feet vertical up that have runoff that comes down into that stream. So I don't think we could even get insurance for that house if we were to try to build it there. So that's
I
why
did
we
notice
put
the
it front.
topography was much greater there.
It's significant.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask Mr. Woodman a question? I appreciate it,
Thank you.
Mr. Edwards. Mr. Woodman, have you in the stormwater, have you all any other knowledge about the driveway, how it would have to be a meandering and more impervious space than just a straight drive?
I'd have to defer to our stormwater staff. We do have staff.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize she was here tonight.
Mrs. Bazinet, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, to put in a driveway there, they need to come as perpendicular across the stream as possible to try and minimize the impacts to the stream and any backwater flooding of the stream. They'd also need to put in a fairly large culvert or bridge to make sure that there's no water that is backing up behind it and impacting any of those neighbors up John Christopher. Additionally, that increased impervious area, when we hit over 5,000 square feet of impervious area in the city now in residential, we require more detention instead of just water quality treatment on residential properties, and that impacts taking out more trees to do more infiltration in the ground with large pipes. So the driveway takes out a swath of trees, then this detention would take out a swath of trees, and we're trying to not have that impact on that stream.
Okay, and if I'm correct, and I just heard the same thing from another house where they're building on in a stream area. It's not just the building of the driveway. It's $50,000 or $60,000 more to build those kind of
It is.
mitigation measures.
It is.
Okay. Plus, do you agree that it would have to be a meandering? Or?
It would. The stream bends and turns in this property, so he would want to do it as best he can to try and save trees and come perpendicular over the stream, so there's going to be some bends in that driveway, likely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions from council at this time? All right. Since there's no other questions, we've finished public comment. I'll call for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will offer a motion to approve V-21-18 Edward/91 John Christopher Drive variance as with the two conditions that, as read by Mr. Woodman earlier, and I will be adding a third condition that reads, at the request of the neighboring property owner to the north, 101 John Christopher Drive, applicant shall remove trees located on their property that have been deemed dangerous in the arborist report prepared by Atlanta Tree Preservation dated November 11th, 2020, subject to final approval by the city arborist.
Second.
So we have a motion to approve the request with the conditions as cited by Councilwoman Richard. Motion was by Councilwoman Richard, second with Councilman Burnett. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem.
I have really struggled with this because as I walked out there, I saw the four that were behind the stream, and I saw more room behind the stream. Tonight's actually changed my mind. It doesn't make sense to add that kind of cost. I do believe people that buy lots have a right to build on the lot. It's property owner rights, and it's protected by every state and federal law. But to require something that's would create so much more impervious space and so much more cost for the homeowner, I just can't. I can't go along with that. So I hope that your backyard will be landscaped nicely, and I have every reason to believe that it will be, so that your neighbors are not looking at something unsightly, but you don't look like the type of people that would do that. So, all right, thank you.
Any other comments? I'll just say I too have struggled with this one. It's interesting, you know, we see a lot of different cases. Some of them are complex and some of them are easy. And while I agree with pretty much everything Mayor Pro Tem said, I also look at it as zoning decisions, whether it's a comprehensive land use plan, a master plan, or thing like that, not only grant rights to the individual property owner, but they also give some expectation of nearby property owners. And so for this lot to have gone undeveloped for decades, it's certainly a challenging lot, but it hasn't dramatically changed since when it was originally purchased. And so at the same time, while I certainly understand the challenges and the economics of building on that lot, that's why it's still covered in trees now, because if it was easy, it would have been covered up already. At the same time, you've got nearby property owners who, when they purchased their property, there was a plat, and it said, these homes are going to be here. And so there's, in my mind, an equal property rights discussion of, do they have the expectation? Should they be able to have that expectation that if there were conditions on the next door property, the city would encourage that to be done? So I certainly see both sides of it. I don't know that I'll support the application because of that, but I certainly understand that it's a difficult decision. That being said, if there are no other comments, all those in favor, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. Oh, there we go. And the motion does pass 4-2. Congratulations. Second item up under the public hearing for tonight is MP-21-05/CU-21-10, George Animal Hospital / Windward Pod 4. Ms. Cook, I believe this is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The next item, the map of the area, is shown to you on the screen. And the applicant, Dr. Aaron George, is requesting a master plan amendment and a conditional use to allow an animal hospital, small animals, in a 2,600 square foot suite within an existing shopping center. An amendment to the Windward Master Plan Pod 4 is requested to add the proposed use. And the property is located at 6195 Windward Parkway, Suite 109, in the Windward Market Forest Shopping Center. The property was developed in 2007, and I have a map of that center. It's a one-story, a little over 18,000 square foot strip center building. Surrounding properties are zoned CUP. We have E-Trade, which is to the north. Starbucks is located to the east. Shell gas stations located to the west, and Windward Plaza Office and Hilton Garden Inn are located to the south. Just a reminder, the master plan for Windward was approved in 1980, substantial update in 1993. This is Windward Pod 4. There are many different commercial uses which are listed within the staff report. They include professional office, banks, restaurant, theater, several different uses. However, this particular use was not approved with the original master plan. Commercial pods in Windward, they represent less than 2%. It's about 60 acres of the overall Windward master plan allows commercial. It's been amended on a few different occasions, including for non-residential master plan amendments. And we included a table. I think there's about 8 different master plan amendments that have taken place over the years. UDC Section 1.4.2 defines animal hospital, small animals, as a place where dogs, cats, birds, or other animals normally kept as household pets are given medical or surgical treatment, and the boarding of animals is limited to short-term care incidental to the hospital use. Dr. Aaron George proposes a new full-service veterinary clinic providing preventative care, medicine, surgery, dentistry, and chemotherapy for cats and dogs. The hours proposed are Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday from 7 to 1, so it's not something that's open around the clock. They do anticipate about 6 to 8 employees. And the shopping center currently has several other tenants. It includes the Secreto Southern Kitchen, Terra Humana Mexican Grill, Majestic Nails, Subway, and Synergy Fitness. And the applicant does propose to occupy 109, which is here at the end. Previous use of that was the urgent care. So they actually have a drive-through that's going to be removed as part of this application, and I have a kind of a blow-up of that area. They do propose to take out that drive-through in order to have a pet station, and they are going to put in some artificial turf as well as the pet waste removal stations, and they do plan for the staff to take care of that each day. Some of the other things that they're providing is some noise mitigation techniques as part of the building out of the suite, because they want to make sure that they're good neighbors, as well as putting some of the other noisier aspects of the vet, like the checkout area. That's going to be located here also at the end of the building. We do estimate that the 2,600 square foot animal hospital would generate about 12 p.m. peak hour trips. And also with conditional uses, we always look at where's the closest location. The applicant's business would be, the closest location would be 1.3 miles away from the nearest animal hospital, which is the Webbridge Animal Hospital. We did review and looked at the criteria, and we believe that we can support the application. It doesn't conflict with the established review criteria for a master plan amendment and a conditional use. And this was brought to the Planning Commission for their consideration on August the 5th. We recommended approval to the Planning Commission with 8 conditions. There were no public comments. And after discussion, Planning Commission recommended approval also subject to 8 different conditions. Number 1, animal hospital small animals shall be added as a conditional use to the Windward Master Plan Pod 4. 2, animal hospital small animals shall be added as a conditional use at 6195 Windward Parkway, Suite 109, and limited to no more than 2,600 square feet. 3, conditional use approval shall be limited to Aaron and Wade George. No additional animal hospital small animals, businesses, or subleasing shall be permitted in the approved space. 4, business hours shall be permitted to operate Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. 5, boarding of animals is limited to short-term care incidental to the hospital use. 6, pet relief areas shall be improved with artificial turf or sod and shall be screened with a decorative fence or shrubs, as approved by staff. Wayfinding signage shall be provided in the parking area and at the front of the business, directing patrons to the pet relief area. 7, interior tenant improvements shall include noise mitigation measures. And 8, mobile resources supporting the business, such as a mobile MRI or X-ray, shall not be parked between the building and the street. And that concludes the Planning Commission recommendation. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Thank you, Ms. Cook.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from council at this time? Councilwoman Richard.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Cook, on condition number 8, the mobile MRI or X-ray, does that mean that those particular vehicles, if they're needed, would be behind the building? Is that where they'd have to be located?
That's correct. Or they could be up at the front of the building, but only temporarily. When we say parked, we don't want it as used as signage right at the street. Because
Understood.
sometimes we have issues with vans staying parked right at the street. So that's what we've been looking for, to make sure that it's moving
Got it.
around.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, Ms. Cook. Would the applicant like to come forward at this time?
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Erin George. I am a veterinarian in the northwest suburbs of Chicago currently. My parents retired down to Lake Oconee about 8.5 years ago, and my husband and I have been down every year since to visit. We absolutely love the area, fell in love with the southern charm. And so about 2 years ago, we kind of drew a radius around where my parents lived and said, we really want to come down here. We want to start our family, be close to our family. And we drove probably 900 miles around Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee, and just absolutely fell in love with this town. We're big tennis players, softball, volleyball. We love how pet-friendly it is. Everyone has been super nice when we've come up, and we love the culture, we love the Avalon, the restaurants, so that's kind of why we decided to hopefully call this town our forever home. As Kathy mentioned, we do plan on running a full-service small animal veterinary clinic. We will not be offering any boarding, and the short-term boarding will just consist of animals who stay for the day for hospitalization. So things like spays, neuters, dental cleanings, that kind of thing. I don't ever anticipate to have any overnight boarders unless for some reason we do an emergency surgery at the end of the day. But even those animals we typically send home at the end of the surgery since there's no staff to spend the night with them. We did meet with our contractor today and definitely discussed more of the noise mitigation measures for especially the shared wall. And then the kennels we plan on putting in the back right corner, so where there's no shared wall, kind of in the back area off to the end cap there. So we are just really excited about moving forward with this, and I'm definitely happy to answer to any questions that you guys might have.
Any questions from council? Councilman Hypes.
Well, first of all, thank you for loving Alpharetta. Condition or recommendation 5 is boarding of animals limited to short-term care. You address that. To include in the recommendations, can you say not to exceed 12 hours, not to exceed 24 hours, short-term being subjective, something like that being more specific?
Yeah, definitely. I think we could say a reasonable amount would be like not to exceed 24 hours, just assuming that they came in, let's say, earlier in the morning on the day, and then we kept them. Again, in the 6.5 years that I've been practicing at my current practice, I've never once had a surgical patient spend the night. So I really typically do not like to keep them there when there is no staff there to monitor. But I would be happy to put something like that in to have it not exceed.
If you're open to that, that provides clarity for
Definitely.
you and for the city. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion to approve MP-21-05/CU-21-10, George Animal Hospital /6195 Windward Parkway, subject to the conditions as read by Ms. Cook. I will add a slight change to condition number 5. Boarding of animals shall not exceed a 24-hour period and is limited to care incidental to the hospital use.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Richards, second by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell. And that was to approve MP-21-05/CU-21-10 George Animal Hospital, 6195 Windward Parkway, subject to the conditions as identified by staff with the changes as noted by Councilwoman Richard. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations. Welcome to Alpharetta. So we'll move on to the third and final item that is on the public hearing agenda, and that will be CU-21-09 Alpharetta Liquor and Wine /11380 State Bridge Road. Mr. Woodman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next item before you is a conditional use to allow Alpharetta Liquor and Wine to operate a liquor store in a 4,960 square foot suite within a new shopping center. Property is Zone C1 Neighborhood Commercial, which requires approval of a conditional use to allow a liquor store. Have the location map up on the overhead. The subject property is located at 11380 State Bridge Road, and this is suites 130, 140, and 150. Location is at the northeast corner of State Bridge Road and Kimball Bridge Road. The property is 1.15 acres. It's developed as Kimball Plaza, which is a new one-story, just under 9,500 square foot shopping center building. Surrounding properties are also zoned neighborhood commercial C1, except the property to the east and south are City of Johns Creek. Georgia Clinic and U-Store Climate Controlled Storage are located to the north. A commercial strip center and City of Johns Creek are located to the east. Honda Carland Service Center is located to the west, and Johns Creek is located to the south. The comprehensive land use plan designation of the property is commercial. Alpharetta Liquor and Wine is a new business. The applicant proposes to occupy 3 suites within the building with a combined area of 4,960 square feet. According to the applicant, products sold will include beer, wine, distilled spirits, and associated items related to alcohol package sales. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., Friday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., and Sunday, 12:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. And the applicant anticipates less than 10 employees. Have the street view of the property. Show you that. So this is looking at the property from State Bridge Road or Old Milton Parkway. And then this is looking back at the property from the intersection. This is the site plan showing the Kimball Plaza Center, State Bridge, Kimball Bridge, and the 3 suites that are highlighted are the suites that the applicant would propose to occupy. Staff looked at the trips generated for the liquor store use, and staff estimates that the use would generate 503 daily trips and 95 PM peak hour trips. Property, as I mentioned, is located at the intersection of State Bridge and Kimball Bridge, which is a high-traffic intersection. It does have an unusual geometry. Typically, an intersection will come together, two streets will come together at a 90-degree angle. This intersection almost has the appearance of an X, so it's got some odd geometry. Access to the property is also a little bit unusual. The State Bridge access shown here is a right-in only curb cut, and then access from Kimball Bridge to this property is through an neighboring adjoining property, and that access is a right-in, right-out. We also looked at other uses that would be typical to a commercial shopping center, and we identified that there are other uses that would generate less PM peak hour trips within that center. And I do have a couple tables. These are directly from the staff report. The upper table looks at the other liquor stores in the city of Alpharetta, and identifies their location, their zoning, and how they were approved either by right or through a conditional use process. Also shows some that were denied and one that was withdrawn. The trips that I just mentioned with regard to, we looked at other shopping center uses other than liquor store. So we looked at medical dental office, a variety store, a pharmacy without a drive-through, a hair salon, copy or print center, and then a high turnover sit-down restaurant. As I mentioned, the liquor store generated 95 PM peak hour trips. Those other uses generate less, with that high turnover restaurant being the closest, but still approximately half the PM peak hour trips. We did look at the access of the property because the first criteria for a conditional use looks at access in and out of a property. One of the other criteria that we looked at for a conditional use is proximity to other uses or proximity to conflicting uses. We did identify that there are other liquor stores in the general vicinity. The Royal Liquor Store is located in the public shopping center across the street. And then the Old Milton Beverage Liquor Store is located a little ways up the street at the Brookside Station. Those are approximately 1/4 mile and 3/4 miles away from this location. There is a liquor store in city of Johns Creek immediately to the south that's about 1/2 mile away. The nearest residences to this location is located to the west in the Parkbrook subdivision. That's about 630 feet away. And then OC Elementary School is located to the south, and that's about 1/4 mile away. None of the conflicting uses violate the alcohol distance requirements for the alcohol license. I just wanted to note that. This item was shown to the public at the July 14th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments. And staff has reviewed the applicant's proposal, and we believe that the request is in conflict with the established review criteria for a conditional use. Vehicular access to the property is a concern, and the liquor store generates more PM peak hour trips than other uses typically found in a shopping center. And as I just mentioned, we did find that there are some other liquor stores in the general vicinity. This item was considered at the August 5th Planning Commission meeting. Staff had recommended denial of the request. There were no public comments at the Planning Commission, and after discussion, Planning Commission recommended unanimous approval, subject to the staff recommended conditions, and those are: 1, liquor store shall be added as a conditional use at 11380 State Bridge Road, Suites 130, 140, 150, and limited to no more than 4,960 square feet. 2, conditional use approval shall be limited to Alpharetta Liquor and Wine. No additional liquor store use or subleasing shall be permitted within the approved space. 3, liquor stores shall be limited to package sales of beer, wine, and distilled spirits. 4, hours of operation shall be Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., Friday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., and Sunday, 12:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. And staff is recommending adding an additional condition number 5. This condition is requested to be added since the Planning Commission meeting, and that condition reads, there shall be no neon signage, no window light trim, and no primary colors used on signage or awnings. And that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anything in the code that has distance requirements for liquor stores? Is there, they have to be 2,000 feet from one another, or 2,000 feet from a school, 2,000? Do we do that with liquor stores or no?
Not in the UDC. The only thing would be the alcohol license distance requirements, and they're not in violation of any of those.
I did not think so. Well, in the future, I think we should look at that. Thank you. That's for another day.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Woodman, it's my understanding that the Planning Commission thought that there was a right turn in and a right turn out from this development. Is that correct?
On State Bridge,
Yes.
That was my understanding, and that's what I did present to the Planning Commission. It was brought to my attention recently that access actually is just a right-in only.
Which puts a lot more traffic on the connector street, right?
I'm not the traffic expert, but we do have staff here that can respond.
But it stands to reason.
Questions.
If
Yes.
you would like to comment on that, would you?
Would the expert like to come forward, please?
Yeah, that shopping center definitely has some convoluted access. Most of the allowances are into the network. To get out of the shopping center, you have to pretty much drive on State Bridge connector, from basically from Kimball Bridge over to Old Mill Parkway. This road over here. So there's an in here. There's a right in, right out at this location. There is through the shopping center, you can weave your way around and get to exits onto the connector as well. In general, it's just not there's not real good access to and from the site.
Well, it might be better too, but from is going to be a difficult task, especially when you double the amount of cars for a liquor store. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Hypes?
Eric.
Councilwoman Richard.
Eric, I have a question.
Don't sit down, Eric.
I'm pretty familiar with the intersection, but if you're coming down State Bridge towards Johns Creek and want to get into the property, the only way in is to turn left onto Kimball Bridge. Is that not correct?
You can turn left on the Kimball Bridge. The other option would be to make a U-turn along Old Milton Parkway, State Bridge, whatever it's called at that location.
So you would do a U-turn there and go toward the gas station, or you would turn left on Kimball Bridge, and another option would be to do a U-turn.
You can do a right, if you do a U-turn and go back towards Alpharetta on State Bridge, there's a right in, on this property.
Okay. And further at the top of the graphic, there's a place where you could do a U-turn to go up Kimball Bridge and do a U-turn and then turn right in to right where the
Correct.
store would be.
Correct.
And if you were coming down Kimball Bridge, you would just turn right into where the store would be. Okay.
Correct.
And when we say 95 trips, is that?
Each trip is one direction, so
40,
so
I'm
you-
not good
you
with the
have
math, 47 in and
40
47 out? Or-
It's not usually equal on a PM peak hour, but yes.
48 in, one guy stays for a while, and 47 out? I don't know.
Correct.
So, okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've actually taken a couple of trips to this particular location, one with Eric, when we discovered that the right out onto State Bridge was no longer a right out. That obviously had changed. But you say it's convoluted. I think that's actually a very gentle term. It's quite chaotic in there. So it's chaotic from a car standpoint. There are no sidewalks within any of these retail centers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the Kimball Bridge Way entrance in is via interparcel connection? Is that
Correct.
correct? And then if I'm coming from Kimball Bridge and I make a right in, that's also an interparcel connection. That's where the fireworks store is?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. So the only direct way in is coming off of State Bridge, if you're making the right in, going towards Alpharetta, going west.
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay. Thank you, Eric. I have a couple of quick questions for Michael. Michael, the plaza, the total square footage is 9,000 plus for the retail center?
Just under about 9,500 square feet.
Okay, and so this liquor store is taking about 50% of that?
Barely over, but yeah, around
Okay.
50.
Do we know what other uses are planned for the remaining center?
I'm not aware of any other uses planned for the rest of the center. The applicant did reach out, or the person that's listed as the contact on the application did reach out and ask about another use in the rest of the center, and I believe that was for a vape store.
For a vape store?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Mr. Whitman, I do have one that's just a little bit off the traffic topic, but I noticed the condition says liquor stores shall be limited to package sales of beer, wine, and distilled spirits. So does that mean they can't sell sodas, they can't sell bottle openers or lighters or anything?
I wouldn't say that would be, those items would be restricted. We can certainly clarify in that condition. I was really focused on the liquor store, the typical liquor store related uses, but you're correct that those other items are typically sold in that type of business.
Okay, so I mean, if we're going to approve it with those conditions, I think we might want to figure out some way to limit it.
Sure.
In a practical manner. I would hate to zone something and then have them technically breaking the law by selling Coca-Cola. You can buy booze, but no Coke in here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could add something with associated items related to typically found at a liquor store, something like that. I would probably address that.
I'm sure Stephen can be thinking on that. Thank you, sir. If there's no other questions, thank you, Mr. Woodman. Would the applicant like to come forward at this time?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Roy, and I represent the Alpharetta Liquor and Wine business. And if anybody has any question, I'm very happy to answer.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? Councilwoman Richard.
Thank you, sir. Do you have other liquor stores throughout the state?
Yes, I do. I own one more liquor store, which is in South city called Greenville, which is 2 hours from here.
And that's at just one other liquor store?
Yeah, and I'm in this business since 25 years. Before I had liquor store in New York too, but in Georgia I just got one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there's anyone here that would like to come and speak on this zoning application, please feel free to come forward. If you don't mind, just state your home address and your name for the public
Roman
record.
Doublesman, 11915 Little Creek Crossing, and I'm Roman. This is Stepan Doublesman. We own the liquor store directly across the street in the public shopping center. It was on the map. Councilman Ben Burnett asked if there's any distance requirements in terms of proximity to other liquor stores. There is a state requirement of 1,500 feet. And our question is, has that been satisfied? Because per our calculations, we calculate it's about 1,300 feet from door to door.
That's an excellent question, sir. Thank you. If the applicant would like to come forward and respond.
In the last planning commission meeting, we provided the state survey, survey which is required by the liquor license authority, and it shows it has no restriction. They are far away from every other business. So we do
You have that document with you?
Not right now, but I provided in the last meeting, and it showed there is no restriction, there is no close-by store, according to city law.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Woodman, are you familiar with that document that he cited?
I am not. I mean, there was a document that was referenced by the applicant at the Planning Commission. I've not seen that document.
If you don't mind, I believe he may have one here, so if you could review that for us.
This is the typical survey that I believe our code enforcement group would receive with a request for an alcohol license application. But again, I couldn't respond to what was referenced as to the state's requirement for distance between liquor stores. I'm not aware of that requirement.
May I see that document? Or can you put it up there so all of us can see it? And I'm sorry, the applicant, I've forgotten your name already. Rod. Rod? Rod, do you see where there is a Royal Liquor Store indicated on here anywhere? Michael, could you push that down just so I can see what's up at the top of that? It identifies a couple of locations, the schools and the churches. I don't see the other liquor store cited there. Mr. Jones, are you checking on the state law? Thank you, sir.
The applicant just presented the City of Alpharetta alcoholic beverage license application, and they were referencing the distances here. But these are distances from a nearby church, library, elementary school, and park. There are also distances referenced at the top from the nearest private residence and a school bus stop.
Okay, thank you. I believe we had another person that wanted to make a public comment. Rod, if you don't mind, while we're trying to clear this up, I wanted to let this other member of the public come forward.
Ruth Ann Tatum, 250 Pebble Trail, Alpharetta, Georgia. I remember, I'm an Atlanta native, and I remember that when I was at the University of Georgia is when downtown they made all of these one-way streets. And I remember after I graduated and had business downtown, it being very frustrating because I knew where I wanted to go, but I could not figure out how to get there with all of the new one-way streets. I tend to think this sounds like a similar situation because you have these very limited ways to get it, and people can see the liquor store, but heaven forbid really being able to figure out how to get it. I will use a good old Southern expression for it. I think it sounds like a hot mess, and I think it is inappropriate, and it seems to be kind of pushing the point of having a liquor store right there with all of the other ones around and everything else, and I would very much say I would not be for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak on this item? If you don't mind, speak to the mic. We have to have a public record for the folks at home.
I just wanted to mention that this was a state requirement, the 1,500 feet. It wasn't in the application for Alpharetta, but it is a state requirement.
Do you have a reference code section? Real help us out.
Yeah, I can look it up real quick. I didn't bring it with me.
But if you do have it, I appreciate if you share that.
Okay.
Our attorney's working on it, but if you have access to it real quickly, that'd be even better.
I can look it up on my phone real quick.
Mayor, as I continue to look, I will say this, CGA 3-3-21 generally regulates the distance requirements for alcohol-related businesses in the state as they're located in proximity to churches, schools, parks, et cetera. Neither that section nor the regulations promulgated, they are under prescribed distance requirements from other retail package stores. And I have seen references in other municipal codes to 1,500 square feet from retail packaging, which indicates to me that if other municipalities have passed those similar distance requirements very recently, that is a issue that has not been preempted by state law. So therefore, if other municipalities are regulating that distance requirement, then the state has not regulated that. We see similar issues like that come up with our own distance requirements under 3-3-21 of the official code of Georgia. So if the opponent can provide us with a citation, we'd be more than happy to look into that to verify whether that is a binding state law. But we do address alcohol distance requirements quite frequently and are not aware of that.
When we presented our application, which was about 11 years ago, we were required to submit a survey in proximity to other liquor stores. I'm wondering if the law has been changed, or that's why it hasn't been indicated in the Alpharetta application, but the state application has it, and I'm trying to find the code here, but it's going to take me a while since it's pretty.
In the interest of making sure we do it right,
Yes. Mayor, let me offer a motion to table CU-21-09 Alpharetta Liquor and Wine, 11380 State Bridge Road.
I'll second that.
have a motion to table by Councilwoman Richard and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Can we add a time frame to it?
I think, well, we're not meeting next week, so at our next council meeting?
I would appreciate it.
Okay, yes, to be tabled to until our next council meeting.
I concur.
Acceptable?
Yes.
Okay, so there can be no discussion about a motion to table. All those in favor of tabling this until the next meeting, please vote yes, otherwise vote no. And it does pass 5-2. So that'll wrap up the public hearings for this evening. We'll move on to new business. First item under new business is resolution approving annual update to city pay plan. Director Randall, you have the floor. Mr. Jones, please stand at the ready to read the resolution.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This next item is a proposed resolution to annually update the city pay plan by the CPI. This is very similar to the item that you approved earlier in June, except that this resolution will provide a mechanism to automatically do those updates, provided that will follow certain criterias. The CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, same as the rate of inflation, as provided by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and usually comes in February. So the new pay plan, updated pay plan, would not be into effect until the first pay period in March of each year. There will be a cap of 3%, so if the CPI is 4%, then the adjustment will still be at 3%. It will also, the adjustment will be subject to availability of funds as determined by the city's mid-year budget and appropriation procedures. And this does not directly impact the pay of current employees unless an employee would be making less than the minimum of the new proposed pay plan, which is unlikely to happen. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm trying to save you from having to hear everything that I said back in June. So,
Do we have any questions for Ms. Randall? Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Jones, do you mind reading the resolution, please?
Yes, Mayor. This is a resolution of the mayor and city, the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta to confirm the adoption of the city of Alpharetta pay plan to provide annual CPI adjustments to the pay plan and for other purposes. Whereas a well-designed and competitive compensation plan is essential to the city of Alpharetta's ability to attract and retain a talented workforce to provide quality public services in an efficient and effective manner. And whereas a true and correct copy of the city's pay plan, heretofore adopted on or about June 26, 2021, is attached hereto as Exhibit A. Now therefore be it resolved, and it is hereby resolved by the governing body of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, that the pay plan attached hereto as Exhibit A is confirmed as the official City of Alpharetta pay plan, and it is further resolved that the pay plan is intended and shall replace all other pay plans of the City of Alpharetta, and it is further resolved that the pay plan shall be automatically adjusted on an annual basis based on the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, from the 12-month period 12-month calendar period, and it is further resolved that the CPI adjustment shall be capped at 3%, and it is further resolved that the annual adjustment shall be effective for the first pay period in March of each year to follow for sufficient time for the city to allow for sufficient time for the city to receive and review the official CPI publication notice from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it is further resolved that the pay adjustments are subject to the availability of the funding as determined in the city's mid-year budget review and appropriation procedures, and it is further resolved that the employees whose wages fall between the minimums as a result of adjustments shall be brought up to the new minimums as soon as reasonably practical in accordance with the city's city finance department standard procedures, and it is further resolved that this resolution is effective immediately and shall remain in full force and effect until subsequently amended or repealed. So resolved this day of 2021.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from council? Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards?
We do
Oh,
not.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Thank you. This is more for Bob and Tom. Are you all, do you feel comfortable that there's enough of a mechanism in here as far as the mid-year budget and looking at that, if we can or cannot afford to give this pay increase on an annual basis? Do you feel like that's completely covered any way you need it to be?
Mayor Pro Tem, it is completely covered, and this is a healthy thing to do for the organization with, I would say, little risk, little downside. It's good to do.
Okay.
And we won't do anything unless the money's available.
Right.
So, yeah.
I just know that we used that as a tool to cut the budget during the recessionary period, and I just want to make sure that's there. And I do think it's a good mechanism, but as long as we have, and you all have control over that.
It keeps the pay plan fresh, you know, so you don't fall behind, and then you have to play catch up in 5 years and it's a big number. This shouldn't have much of an effect on the budget at all.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, Ms. Rangel again. Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone would like to come forward, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution to the city's pay plan to provide an annual CPI adjustment as read by Mr. Jones.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Burnett, a second by Councilman Merkel, and that was to approve the resolution as read by Stephen Jones. Any discussion? Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to Chris, you know, and Dan for this, you know, being able to get on board with this idea. You know, if you carry $9 million over from a budget cycle to the next one, it's a great way to keep your pay ranges in line, because what is a $16 an hour minimum wage gets adjusted by 3% or CPI, or not to exceed 3. There's a lot of traps in there, so that, you know, I know Bob and Chris love their people, so it would have to be a dire situation for them to not get to either of those numbers. But it's the right thing to do. If you have a AAA credit rating and you carry over that kind of money, paid FMLA, the things that we've really been able to go, having the highest minimum wage in the state for a municipality, it's the right message to continue to send, that if you want to work in local government, we want you here. And I think that the values of this community are very supportive of taking care of the people that take care of us. So thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Merkel.
Yeah, I would add to that. Councilman Burnett did a great job. Chris was very aware of of this being a great option to offer this city and the staff and the people that work here, that shows that we continue to invest in them. As we say, train them so they'll leave, but treat them so they won't. Here's just another great example of treating them so they won't. So appreciate this.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the resolution as read by City Attorney Jones, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. Councilman Burnett. And it does pass unanimously. Next item up under new business is the Atlanta Regional Commission grant application, PE funding. Mr. Graves. Well, you don't look like Mr. Graves. Director Cook, please have the floor.
Mayor and Council, this next item is to talk about the Atlanta Regional Commission. They're currently accepting applications for the preliminary engineering funding of projects which are identified in adopted LCI plans. So it has to be something, a project that was planned for in an adopted LCI plan. And we did come up with two different projects for your consideration. The grant application is due August the 27th, so I wanted to show two for your consideration. And we did put these in two different resolutions in case there was one that was that you wanted to move forward, and or both of them, but you can look at those independently. So the first project is the Milton Avenue Streetscape and Pedestrian Plaza. It's been a couple of years before when we brought this forward with the workshop, and you may remember the actual construction was estimated at that time at about $3.5 million. I think Pete went back and put some numbers in there for the underground, so it's actually closer to $4.5 million. What we're requesting is approval to submit to the Atlanta Regional Commission for the engineering design funds, which would be $600,000. And there would be a 20% match. So for this particular project, the match to the city would be $120,000. And just to remind everybody, this would remove the angled parking spaces. There's about a little over 30 parking spaces out there now that are angled. And then the new design, of course, would widen the sidewalks. So there's the wider sidewalks, and remove the angled parking, and there would be parallel parking spaces. And so that's one of the projects that we could submit because that's within the downtown LCI. The other project is in the North Point LCI, and that would be a request for funding in order to design the Alpha Link. Of course, we had a lot of different public input on the concept plan. So the request for the Atlanta Regional Commission would be for design funds of $1.25 million, and that would design the section that would come from Lakeview, the lake at Tech 360, which is now called Lakeview, over to North Point Parkway to where the gateway would start, the gateway that's funded. And for that design, again, that's $1.25 million. There would be a 20% match of $250,000. So those are the two items. Again, it's a short window to submit, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Councilman Hypes.
Well, first of all, thank you for pursuing this. Second of all, I really like the two items that have been selected. I have a question about the Milton Avenue, which I've been a proponent of when we were ranking T-SPLOST items. I rather like this potential project. Are we going to put bricks on the street?
It's pavers. It's shown as brick pavers. They're not actual bricks.
Okay, but
and that'd be part of the design process. We would look at different materials that may make sense, that look like the brick or they're brick pavers.
Second question, in exchange for brick pavers, is included in the cost for that one block stretch, putting the overhead power lines underground?
Yes, and that's to get the big canopy trees.
I couldn't recall all the specifics, but when looking out from the hotel across the street, you really don't realize the wires until you look out. And
that was a huge cost, and I think that
it is a huge cost.
The last plan that we had with Georgia Power actually took the utilities off of Milton Avenue and ran them behind the buildings. That was part of the design. So they wouldn't even have that underground along the street. So that would be part of that design.
I applaud the selection of these two items.
Just a quick question, just to clarify. Do we have to pick one or the other?
No. You could-
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
It's one from each LCI area, so we could only pick one project from the North Point and one project from downtown. The other LCI that we have is Windward and Main Street, but we didn't have a project that had been through the process, the public.
That's fine. It's just in something that I either read or something you said, for some reason I got the impression we were.
No, and we just set up the resolution as two different resolutions in case you didn't want to approve both of them. And I did need to add that the North Fulton CID is actually helping us with the preparation of the Alpha Link application.
Thank you. I believe it was Councilman Binder next.
Sure. Director Cook, so Milton Avenue, it's a Tier 2 T-SPLOST item, right? So, and we reached down to get to some Tier 2 on T-SPLOST 1, but we didn't have enough funds, I think even to cover T-SPLOST 1. Is that correct? And Pete's not right. I looked right there for my normal.
Eric, do you recall?
Okay.
That is correct.
I think we should be doing design to build. And so I'm a big proponent on the Milton Avenue one too, but we have a lot of dollars that we haven't reached for, say, the North Point Parkway and funds for there. So if there's a willing on council to make sure that we're designing to build, I think it's good, but otherwise we should be looking at how much we're designing in the shotgun approach when we're still trying to collect dollars for other projects that we have. So, but I think the Alpha Link is something that the Alpha Loop's been huge, and if that's part of the Alpha Loop funds that are going to go to the voters for T-SPLOST and for the bond, or some other dollars, that would be great. I know you don't have the answer, but I want to hear that as a council we're supportive of moving forward. That this is designed to build, not design and then put it on the shelf.
And a lot of times with the Atlanta Regional Commission funding, they do ask for the design, for submittal for the design grants, and if you are awarded the design money, similar to what we just were awarded with North Point, the $1.6 million towards design, now they've came back and designated $5 million towards the actual construction. So it can set up to where you can ask for additional funds. It is slower. But they do kind of set it up to where you can ask for additional funding for the actual construction.
That's correct, but I think we as a group need to understand our commitments of what projects we have, and a lot of those T-SPLOST items aren't fully funded.
Sure.
So I think it's great to get, there's no such thing as free money, and in this case we're committing to other things and maybe moving it to construction, that maybe we have dollars that we still need to reprioritize. But I still think they're great projects. I just don't know where they are on if the time is right.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Ms. Cook. Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comments?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone wants to come forward and speak on these grant applications, now is your shot. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will offer a recommendation to approve authorization for submittal of the Milton Avenue Streetscape and Pedestrian Plaza and Alpha Link Connector grant applications. Oh, were we supposed to read the resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry for.
My apologies.
It's me, Mayor. It's me.
Yes.
You forgive me.
It is you, Mayor. Mr. Jones, would you please read the resolution?
And I'll read them in the order that they appear in your agenda packet. So we're calling this 6B1 and 6B2. The first is a resolution to authorize the mayor and city council to approve the submission of the Milton Avenue Streetscape Pedestrian Plaza application to the Atlanta Regional Commission, whereas the Alpharetta City Council adopted the Downtown Master Plan Update Downtown LCI in 2015. And whereas ARC provides local assistance programs to implement facets of the LCI within the designated study area, including the LCI program and the Community Development Assistance Program, CDAP. And whereas the City of Alpharetta seeks to participate in the LCI program to implement the Milton Avenue Streetscape and the Pedestrian Plaza identified in the Downtown LCI Master Plan, and whereas evidence authorizing the acceptance of said application must be provided, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Alpharetta, hereby that the submission of the Milton Avenue Streetscape and the Pedestrian Plaza grant application is hereby approved, and if awarded, the mayor is hereby authorized to execute award package with directives under the LCI program, and it is hereby further resolved that the mayor and city council do hereby acknowledge and agree to provide a cash match equivalent to 20% of the total study amount resolved this day of 2021.
Thank you, sir.
And then we have a second.
Please proceed.
Yes. A resolution to authorize the mayor and city council to approve the submission of the Alphalink connector application to the Atlanta Regional Commission, whereas the city of Alpharetta adopted the North Point LCI plan in February 2018, and whereas the city of Alpharetta adopted the North Fulton Comprehensive Transportation Plan in March 2018, and whereas the City of Alpharetta adopted the Alpha Loop Trail Connectivity Feasibility Study in November of 2020, and whereas ARC provides local assistance programs to implement facets of the LCI within designated city area, including the LCI program, and whereas the City of Alpharetta seeks to participate in the LCI program to implement the Alpha Link connector identified in the North Point LCI study area, and whereas evidence authorizing the acceptance of said application must be provided, now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and city council of the city of Alpharetta hereby that the submission of the Alpha Loop Trail Connectivity Feasibility Study Grant application is hereby approved, and if awarded, the mayor is hereby authorized to execute award package with directives under the LCI program, and it is hereby further resolved that the mayor and council do hereby acknowledge and agree to provide a cash match equivalent to 20% of the total study amount. So resolved this day of 2021.
Thank you, sir. Now that we have read the resolutions, I'll call for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will offer a motion to approve authorization for submittal of the Milton Avenue Streetscape and Pedestrian Plaza and Alpha Link Connector Grant applications to the Atlanta Regional Commission and approve resolutions of funding commitments for the projects.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Richard and a second by Councilman Burnett, and that was to approve the authorization for the submittal of Milton Avenue Streetscape and Pedestrian Plaza and Alpha Link Connector Grant applications to the Atlanta Regional Commission and approve resolutions of funding commitments for the projects. Any discussion? Councilmember Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Binder, I agree with everything that you said, but I'm supportive of everybody's projects and everybody's vision. And the truth is that I think that between the public works staff and the executives that work for, the city of Alpharetta, I don't know how many more times we could go sit there and try to pull money out of the ditch with GDOT for everything we can get. So, I mean, I was a little surprised to make it seem like we didn't care, because I think almost all of us have been down there in some form or fashion. You're welcome any time. It takes a lot of effort and work, and you have to ask, and you have to ask again, and you have to ask again, and they tell you no, and they tell you no, and they tell you maybe, and then one day they tell you sure. So I hope that was not the message that was received, was that nobody here cares. So thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Binder.
Again, I'm supportive of the idea. I just, to evolve one of your quotes is 100% of nothing is nothing. I still think if you have 60% of the funding for North Point, you still got nothing. So I think as a group, we need to start figuring out where we're going to get the other dollars coming once we get T-Splosh in there. So we got a lot of commitments, and got to figure out how to make them all happen. So let's plan to build.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. We have no screen. We can't see the vote tally, that's all. There we go. And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the third and final business item under new business, and that will be the MOU with the City of Milton for football cooperation. This will be handled by Director Regas.
Mayor and Council, before y'all tonight is an MOU with Milton for the football program. Milton has done a good job of building football football fields, and so we think they're on equal footing with us on that, and so we think this kind of agreement makes sense for this program. We would each commit 2 fields to football. All residents of either city would be considered residents and pay resident fees. The North Atlanta Football League, the organization that runs it, their board would be made up of 50% Alpharetta residents and 50% Milton residents. And really, that's pretty much it. It would go into effect September 1st, and it would be subject to, it would renew automatically January 1st of each subsequent year. So we'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions from council at this time? Director, Councilwoman Richard, did you have a question?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. So the football program season has already begun. Is that right? The teams are practicing and
They're practicing.
So the fact that we're doing this in September, is there a retroactive component concerning the non-resident fees?
Right. The agreement the city made with the North Atlanta Football League for this year did treat Milton residents as Alpharetta residents. So Milton residents didn't pay a non-resident fee this year.
So there's no refunding, like we did with the special needs camps. We don't have to do that here.
Right.
They never charged them.
Okay. It's interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Councilman Binder.
Football is one leg of the multiple sports that we've been doing. How's conversations going on other sports, or how much more are we going to do? I know softball is one, and soccer, or
We're looking at the other sports and how, again, what each city brings to the table as far as resources, and then how maybe those can complement each other, and then see where the common ground is and what makes sense to do.
No, I think it's good on some of the football ones. I know I've been getting my news from the newspaper on this one, so I hope maybe we can get some status updates as it continues. I know it's not easy. We've tried for multiple years on it, and it's hard with the accounting from different cities and what they're bringing into the table, but it would be a good thing to add to try to break down the borders of recreation, because I don't think really the kids or the parents see it.
Councilman Merkel.
To Councilman Binder's point and others, we are working on them. We're working on softball right now. We've got soccer coming up and lacrosse. We felt it was better to take them individually because, like Mr. Regas said, who's bringing what to the table makes a determination as to where you wind up in the middle. The goal is to make sure that you got the kids in mind, take the egos and the coaches out of it, put together a program, because if we're kind and share in the football and we find out down the road that maybe if we don't come to an agreement on lacrosse, maybe our kids don't get to play. So as you know, as previous liaison to parks, each city sometimes has a bigger strength in a different sport. So that's where it benefits the kids that we pull the two together. And we're strictly doing this with Milton currently. It was my suggestion we wait until the election cycle finishes out in Johns Creek to see who we'll actually be talking to. Seeing how there's 5 seats over there, I don't see it worth right now. But for now, focusing on what we can with these next 3 sports with Milton is a key. Correct?
Any other questions from council? I've got a few on this one, so I just wanted to give y'all an opportunity first. So does Milton currently provide any field space or support for softball programs?
Softball, no, they do not.
Okay. And so I think, I'm assuming that's the point y'all are making, is that in football, the new agreement shows 50% of the field space and maintenance is paid for by Milton, and 50% is for us. Right, but I mean, there's equal field spaces, and assuming those are equal expenditures on both, whereas some of the programs don't have that. Okay, so I wanted to make sure. I thought that was the case. The other question I have, and first I do want to congratulate Director Rogers and Bob and Councilman Merkel for stepping in and going back and being able to work towards an agreement on football. It was a real challenge, and you've made some serious improvements. My question is, 2 of the things that concern me with the agreement that was originally presented to us a few months ago was that, 1, it turned over control of the program to a board of directors primarily composed of Milton residents. So I appreciate y'all coming to an agreement. This is a partnership. The other challenge that existed in that agreement was Milton was going to be providing 2 fields and will be providing 2 fields, but all 4 of those fields are actually in the city of Milton. And so I want to ask a question just to make sure we're all clear on this. I support this agreement with the understanding that we've done an assessment of field spaces. Are you prepared to make sure that the city of Alpharetta has football field space available at Webbridge Park so that our football program supporting Alpharetta High School doesn't have to drive into the city of Milton on the other side of town to actually have a program?
So Milton, the city of Milton has, within Bell Memorial Park, they have a regulation football field, and then they have practice space on another field. So that's the 2 that we're counting, is because they are going to be practicing on that field at Bell Memorial and then playing primarily flag on their field in Bell Memorial. But they are also, so this is not part of the agreement, but I think everyone needs to know that, is that the Milton has purchased property off of Cox Road, and their plan is to have football fields, at least that's what I've been told, on that as well. So they're making strides toward that. But to answer your question, yeah, we will make sure that the space is being proportionally used.
I know. I'm going to try to help you because I think maybe I wasn't really clear on what I was trying to ask. My support for this document is contingent upon the city of Alpharetta supporting sports programs and football on the east side of 400, because my objection was that all our 4 fields are all in the city of Milton. North Park we own, but it's an island in the city of Milton. And so Alpharetta High School's football, youth football specifically, programs suffer for the fact that it's not convenient. We have 4 fields devoted to the NAFL program. All of them are in the city of Milton and not easily accessible to our residents that go to other high schools, Chattahoochee or, Alpharetta High School. So I just wanted to ask if you were prepared to do that, if you've done the field assessment and you've talked about allocating resources based on that. So I guess I'm putting you on the spot and you're not prepared to answer that, but just be aware that I think one of my challenges is that the program doesn't support Alpharetta High School to the extent that it could and should. And we need, as a city of Alpharetta, to make sure that we're responding to those east side residents as well. Councilman Biner.
I think we share similar concerns. That was my thing on hitting this one sport at a time. I I mean, the same could be said to soccer. I drive my kid clear across from one end of Alpharetta to the other, and then she plays with a lot of kids that's on the Webb Bridge side of things. So my addition on that is the field usage. I would hope that sports could be shared east-west for kind of all sports. So rectangular fields that we have for, football on the east side, maybe split them up and have some of them for soccer, and then there. So just,
I completely
share your
agree.
concern, but I think it should be multiple sports on this. And that's, again, you look at all the high schools, I think Alpharetta is the only one that has all Alpharetta students. Maybe they have others, I'm not sure, but Chattahoochee, Milton, Cambridge, they're all shared, we're between different cities. So I think the sports programs need to kind of share that. So, but no, I agree with you on the field assessment. It just needs to be for all sports.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. I do appreciate it. Ms. Cobb, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone wants to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add, there was a statement a minute ago that this is a true partnership, and I think that was used somewhat euphemistically. The legal document makes clear that there is no partnership or joint venture between the cities, and I would hate for the official record to reflect something different than what we're agreeing to.
That's what I was thinking too.
Thank you for reminding me not to say anything that's actually legally interpreted. I appreciate the clarification. Silly me for wandering into that territory. That's why we pay you guys. But I'll still call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will offer a motion, not a partnership, on the MOU with the City of Milton for football cooperation as presented this evening by Director Rogers and Mr. Regas.
We have a motion by Councilman Merkel and a second by Councilman Heitz. Any further discussion? Councilman Burnett.
I think, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a part of this, I'm one of the people up here with little kids, and that's part of the reason why in January I won't be up here. But I think it goes without saying, it's an assessment for these programs. Also, it's been a lot of talk about football, but to be honest with you, I don't know that the kids out here, and I'm going to get hell from the Milton parents, I can tell you now, but I don't know that it is a growing sport in North Fulton. I think 20 years ago it definitely was, but if you go out there, you can't get a field at Webb Bridge Park, and they're all dedicated to soccer more or less every night of the week. So it's a really interesting conversation to, as you guys move forward, to see what your actual statistics are with respect to field space and with respect to age groups and what is growing and what is not. Because, I was a liaison to, when you made me the rec commissioner, to the softball league. Softball league's got challenges. And that's, we could put 3 cities together. It still have challenges with getting the right number of people to play. And I think having an honest conversation about your assessments, whether it's, regardless of what the sport is a really healthy thing that you guys and girls should pursue, because we all feel a certain way about something, but sometimes your facts aren't representative of what your feelings are. And I love soccer. I could be dead wrong. And I think that if you, to Councilmember Binder's point, on the east side or the west side of 400, I think it would be a healthy exercise to go through with respect to trading a field at Webb Bridge for a football field. Because you're right. And the youth and the high school programs reflect that there's no football field on the east side for kids, and that's the truth. It's always been that way, and Milton has really done well with 4 fields, and Alpharetta High School has had more challenging years. And I think that some of that needs to be a comprehensive conversation, and I'm glad that you guys are willing to take this and move forward, whether it's one at a time or whether it's just a hot mess, to quote my friend Ruth Ann. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Heitz.
Well, I see this, all these points are, quite valid and good to work on going forward, but I'd like to celebrate the wins where we get the wins. 2 communities side by side came together. They found something that they could work together in common for the benefit of parents and kids. and we've reached an agreement. And so we take that and we step up to the next sport, and the next thing we can reach an agreement. So, you know, we live in a somewhat divisive world, and here we've got two local governments, you know, working together for the common good. And for football, we got that one addressed, and you know, we made sure it was equitable for both cities, and then we'll move on to the next one. But I want to celebrate the wins too.
Councilman Merkel.
Well, Councilman Heights once again steals my thunder. No, he's absolutely right. We looked at this from several ways, and going back to the basics of the fact that let's check these boxes one at a time. There was discussions, how does it affect other sports? They've been doing this for a long time. Seasons change. We do use high school fields for some of this. And it is a good win. I hear a lot about the east side, west side. I drive all over the city on a regular basis. Yeah, it's kind of a hassle, but, you know, I didn't know any different growing up as a kid. I spent half my life in the back of a station wagon going from some field to some field or some hockey rink to some hockey rink. It just seemed like that was just part of the deal. So I think based on the size of our city, even if it's the east side and west side, we're not talking the other side of Gwinnett. I mean, yeah, being a small city, sometimes we think it should be right around the corner, but we're not. We're a growing city in volume, but not borders. So as we fill those back in, I'm very confident. And the park system that this city has for a city this size is amazing. It literally is amazing. You don't see this around the country. So as Councilman Hype says, let's put this one in the win column, and we're going to go back and work on bringing you another one.
Any other discussion from council? All right. All those in favor of approving the MOU with the City of Milton for football cooperation, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously. So that'll wrap up the new business for this evening, and now we'll move on to public comment. So members of the public who are just sitting there waiting for their opportunity for a comment, now you have your chance. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Any reports? Councilman Merkel.
Let's keep rolling. Want to point out that Morgan also secured a grant from Fulton County's Arts Commission to the tune of $7,800 for a music match program that we're doing with downtown businesses that are coming up and saying, you know, I get a guy for $500 to play on the street corner, offer a little entertainment in the city. Our match will match half of that, traditionally the way we've been doing it. So I want to thank Morgan for another win for the home team, for the good guys, and let the music continue.
Councilman Binder and then Councilman Hypes.
Yes, sir. Got a couple appointments for commissions. I'd like to reappoint Chantel Beach to the Rec Commission, and for my two spots on the Ethics Commission, Gina Kellis and Cheryl Sims.
And since technically it has to be appointed by the mayor, I can concur, but that is the position.
And I did call before. I meant that.
No,
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure it was formally done like it's supposed to formally be done. But yes, I fully support that nomination and make that nomination for him. Any other reports? Oh, that's right. I said Councilman Hypes next.
Also, with an appointment regarding the Rec Commission, Kevin Johnson has stepped down, and I'd like to thank Mr. Johnson for his service on the Rec Commission, and to fill that spot for post 4 with the mayor's concurrence, I'd like to appoint Jeremy Scott to the Rec Commission.
Thank you, sir. Once again, I certainly acknowledge that appointment. Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I happened to run into a gentleman by the name of Ron Freeman today, who had, at one time, the city had an app. They were his first customer, and he is approaching the 2 comma column for gross revenue in a year, and he has recently signed an agreement with TSA and DHS. And so it's cool to see somebody at a Tech Alpharetta in a matter of 4 years leverage us as their first customer to go get a federal contract. That's pretty neat to have sat here and watched it. Super, super cool. Thank you.
That is good. I'm glad for Ron.
Yes,
Director
Mayor.
or City Administrator Regas.
And so, Governor Kemp has allocated $875 million for grant opportunities in 3 categories. One is rural broadband, one is water and sewer, which includes stormwater. A third is economic impact. We're working as a team to apply for everything we can apply for. The deadline's August 31st. We'll keep you all in the loop on things. We talked a little bit about it under reports last week, but this is, Kathy, Pete, James, Tom, everybody. It's like an all hands on deck. Amanda Day, we're contracting with her to write these things up. Good thing is the Office of Planning and Budget is not asking for a ton of information. So we're giving them everything we can give them, and it's full speed ahead on this. And we'll see how we do. And we'll stay in touch with all y'all on the things we're applying for.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Just curious, is there a need for stormwater replacement on Milton Avenue?
We could find one.
Mr. Graves? Okay, just thought I'd check.
And we are going for a lot of money on North Point Parkway, of course, 28 to 30 million.
Good. Any questions? Councilwoman Richard?
Do we have any insight on what the award timeframe is? So the submittal is August 31st?
Right, and there's no time frame. We're thinking the grant submittals are so general that they may come back with more questions about
First pass?
what is this all about. Yeah, there may be like a first cut, and here's more questions to give more detail on these.
Okay, thank you.
Any follow-up questions to that? All right. Is that all the reports? Seeing none? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We are adjourned.